Senator Jeff Merkley, thanks for giving us a few minutes of your time today. I know you're in your DC office, so there's a lot of stuff to cover today. And I know that you've been involved in equal rights issues for a long time. So earlier this week, the Supreme Court, by a 6-3 decision, ruled that LGBTQ people cannot be fired for being who they are. Just give us your thoughts and your take on all of that.
That's an enormous victory. It was in 2013, 7 years ago, that I took the Employment Non-Discrimination Act to the floor of the Senate and won a supermajority, passed the bill that would have accomplished the same thing, but the House refused to take it up. So it's been 7 years in which the door has been slammed in the face of LGBTQ Americans, denying them opportunity, denying them equality. So I'm so pleased that this was the finding of the court, that this discrimination cannot stand. But it only applies to discrimination in the workplace. And so it doesn't address housing or financial contracts or restaurants, places of accommodation, a whole list of things. And that's why we need to pass the Equality Act, of which I'm the chief author. And I am looking forward to seeing that on the floor. Led a letter that just went to leadership from 48 senators saying, put the Equality Act on the floor of the Senate.
And so is there a time frame when that might actually make it to the Senate floor?
Well, in the Senate's current status, the only person who can decide what goes on the floor is a majority leader. And the majority leader does not support anything that expands opportunity, equality, and injustice in America, anything in recent memory. Maybe there's something way back when. So this is disturbing. It's exactly why I had so many senators say this needs to be debated. We need to take a vote on it. We should not wait for a decade or 2 decades to have the courts adjudicate the issues that are parallel to employment. It's the same standard on gender. It's going to be very similar discussion. So we're simply saying, rather than decades of court cases, let's implement this vision now of full equality for all LGBTQ citizens.
Moving on to another topic here, there's 2 things that are continuing in the country, the protests and the pandemic. Let's talk about the protests first. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but today the Portland City Council is voting on the next fiscal year budget, and that includes funding the police department in one form or another. Yesterday, President Trump signed an executive order that he touted as major police reform. So what's your take on the protests and the executive order that President Trump put out yesterday?
I don't know if you remember the commercial from decades ago that said, "Where's the meat?" But that was my response to looking at the president's executive order. For example, it proceeded to say that there will be a database, but it doesn't have any of the essential components that would make a database be effective in terms of both deterring individuals from predatory actions when they're serving as public safety officers, or making sure they can't go down the road and get hired by the next department. So details matter. I do appreciate that the president put something forward. It adds to the conversation, to the debate, but it's not the substantive reform to try to make sure that the principle that every individual in the community is a client of the public safety officer. They're treating everyone equally, regardless of the color of their skin. For that, we have a long ways to go.
Let's talk now about the pandemic. I know that you've been in the forefront of various relief packages for people, including farm workers, and you've proposed help for farm workers. So tell us a little bit about that particular program and how that's going.
Yes, so I'm introducing a bill tomorrow. It's called appropriately the Farm Act. It's endorsed by United Farm Workers. It's endorsed by the farm workers in Oregon, go under the name KOIN. It provides and says farm workers are doing hazardous work. We know that there's a lot of infections among farm workers. So 1, paid sick leave. 2, hazard pay. In both cases, the federal government will provide grants to the producers to cover the cost, so that doesn't fall on the producers. It would also then proceed to implement the CDC recommendations for workplace, so that farm workers are not being put into the position of being saying, if you want to earn a paycheck, you have to risk your life. Every farm worker should be treated with appropriate standards to protect their health.
And I seem to ask you this every time we talk, but the stimulus package or the relief package, the first one is kind of running out in July, and I know it's kind of moving through Congress a little bit. Another package. What's the status of that as we sit here today?
Well, only the majority leader of the Senate can put a bill on the floor, and he's indicated that in the next 3 weeks he doesn't intend to put anything on the floor, and then according to the schedule, his schedule, we're out for 2 weeks. That would mean 5 weeks without action, on top of the many weeks since the last action. This is completely unacceptable. It's completely frustrating. There is bipartisan concern that we have a lot of issues to address. Testing and tracing, support for education. Think about right now all the school districts in Oregon that are wrestling with who they're going to be able to hire for teachers next year, and all the folks whose careers are going to be impacted in that fashion. All the support that their state and local government needs to sustain essential services like education and like housing and like public safety. So there is an urgency here. We're fighting the battle from the inside. We know there's a lot of pressure building on the outside. We should be on the floor debating the next act, the Corona 4 bill, or known as the HEROES bill, at this moment.
And one final question. Oregon is among 20 states or so that have seen an uptick in the coronavirus since they've reopened a little bit. Any thoughts about is it a spike? Is it just a continuation? Is it a relaxation of social distancing? Just your thoughts.
Well, we really got a big message sent to us by Union County, where church services and a wedding where people were close together without protection has resulted in more than 100 cases. And it's in an area that really had almost no cases before. So it's a reminder that a single person who may be asymptomatic, not have a fever, not have anything that would say, oh, that person's ill, can walk into a crowded room and the disease can spread really fast. I mean, I think everyone's stunned that a few meetings could result in 100 people getting infected. So there's the reality of why we have to continue exercising social distancing and wearing face masks. Doing those things well will help us speed up the opening of the economy, which is important to everyone. So it's a win-win to be smart, which will help with our health and the businesses.
Well, Senator Jeff Merkley, I know it's a busy day for you, as it always is. Appreciate you giving us a few minutes of your time. Stay healthy, and we'll talk again soon.
Well, Tim, there's one more thing I wanted to mention.
Okay.
I just came from the floor, and we passed the Great Outdoors Act.
Oh.
And this act is a big deal. It's permanent funding for the Land Water Conservation Fund that acquires key pieces of land that are very significant to the public. And it provides a tremendous amount of funding that will repair our infrastructure in our national parks. So this is a big love hug to our national park system and to protecting precious pieces of our land. So I think Oregon is the type of state where we care about this a lot. It's a big deal that this just passed.
Well, congratulations to you, Senator, and thanks for letting us know about that. Good news for you, good news for Oregon. So thanks very much.
Good news for all of us.
All right. Thanks, Senator. See you.
Bye-bye.